Hey guys, and welcome back to Twilight Princess. It's almost time for the endgame, but not just yet. Today we're going to be venturing through the Cave of Ordeals, and it is a bit of an ordeal. If you care to take a look at the the time of the video below, we're going to go through 50 floors of enemies. Will the reward be worth it? Probably not, but we're going in anyway. Let's do this.
I thought this playthrough was going to be fun. You know, we were just going to talk over Twilight Princess, have a laugh in the beginning, enjoy the later, and then came the 50-minute parts, and then I started questioning what I've done with my life.
They're not all bad. You can talk about whatever you like, provided we comment on what's going on.
There is a man. He has a green outfit, and now he's fighting. Repeat that 50 times, part done.
I should warn you, not all of the floors are going to be as easy as a single bokoblin. They get much tougher the further down you go. You're going to need as many bottles as you can get. I'd recommend the magic armor, especially for some of the deepest floors. And obviously, as many bombs and arrows as you can get. I would recommend maxing out your quiver and getting all the bomb bags and such.
So, would you say this is an improvement or a downgrade from Wind Waker Savage Labyrinth?
Well, practically every floor looks the same aesthetically, so in that regard, Wind Waker beats it out, but Wind Waker beats a lot of things out in terms of aesthetics, so that's not really fair. But in terms of challenge, yeah, I guess. The lower floors can get pretty dickish later on.
You mentioned, yeah, that they only go with this one, essentially, room design. And to me, I think that actually works for Twilight Princess, because with Wind Waker, you can throw more logic out the window with it as a Zelda game. So when you go, like, 50 floors down into the earth, and all of a sudden, it's, like, all pretty and light blue, and it's like, wait, who did this? What? Why did you randomly want to change the way the rooms look? Like, it makes sense in Wind Waker because everything's so cartoony and colorful. But with this, having all the rooms just look like a cave in the earth, it makes more sense, goes with the aesthetic, and, you know, they're not kidding around. They're not trying to impress you with the pretty colors in the Death Cave.
So how did you find the Cave of Ordeals?
Unnecessary? Not worth my time? Something that I've only seen about 2 times in my life and always played by someone else, not myself. But, the concept of it. A super dungeon that's just a bunch of floors that you keep going down over and over and over. I don't like it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's just, it's not a gameplay idea that I enjoy. And every time I see it in games, I don't do it. The Pit of 100 Trials in Thousand Year Door didn't do it. I just don't like going down a bunch of floors to fight an enemy, to go down more floors to fight more enemies. It's not for me. Especially
the types of, like, multi-floor dungeons that don't have checkpoints.
Yeah, that too, but I can understand that, just because, like I said, I have an affinity for when designers go full-blown dickish.
The reward's got to be good as well, I think. Like in, I think it was Super Paper Mario. I forget the name of that multi-floor dungeon, but spoilers, the reward is unlimited 3D. The problem there, though, is by the time you reach that point, by the time you're powerful enough to get to the bottom of that particular dungeon, you'll have no use for that anyway, so it's kind of a balancing act.
That's one of the reasons why I don't like these kinds of dungeons, because they make them difficult, which is good. I mean, it's always fun to throw the challenge, especially in a Nintendo game, where you do have to have a sort of difficulty, not even curve, like, it needs to be difficulty borders. It needs to be a minimum amount of difficulty for the game to not be boring, but you also can't have it be too difficult or you lose some of your audience. And for Nintendo, you know, appealing to the broadest, widest audience possible is sort of like their mission statement. So, while the rest of the game, you can definitely see the difficulty borders, these, you know, super dungeons or whatever, they're allowed to be a lot more free, and they're allowed to, you know, just throw whatever they want, go hardcore. It's optional. At the end of the day, that can be used as the excuse, but at the same time, like you said, they usually include a prize that would have been nice to have for the dungeon, not so much as a reward for the dungeon, but that happens a lot. RPGs do that with super bosses, where it's like, oh hey, cool, by being this super boss you get an attack. It's like, yeah, except this attack would have only been useful against this boss, and it's really too overpowered for the rest of the game.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil anything, but we've gotten the reward for this dungeon elsewhere, and quite recently, actually. So put 2 and 2 together, and you'll be able to figure out what the reward for beating all 50 floors is.
That too! Like, okay, the reward's not that great. Whatever. At least the reward can be different. The fact that we can get the reward for the Cave of Ordeals somewhere else by doing something less time consuming. What? Like, you could switch it up. Like, it's okay if you get the same item, but like, I don't know. I don't make video games, so I can't give you a concrete solution to this problem other than just personally I don't play them. That's how I solve the problem of super dungeons, is that I avoid it and I continue on my merry way playing the rest of the video game.
Okay, there we go, 10 floors down, and for beating this many floors, we meet the first Great Fairy, who will release fairies to the Ordon Spring.
Oh, Twilight Princess, you're so mature and so dark-toned that you've even changed the fairies for a more mature aesthetic, I see. What do you think of the fairy design? I'm gonna go with your opinion first here, I'm not touching this.
There's a certain Tolkien-esque vibe to it, although I can't recall Galadriel ever going shirtless and whatnot, but I think I prefer the ones from Wind Waker, just a bit more class.
Yeah, and they're a bit more ethereal. I know that, you know, the first thing you notice is, oh my gosh, she has no top. It's like, yeah, but the Ocarina of Time ones also had no top. Except, instead of being wrapped around in mythical ivy, they just, use their hair. So, it's, I guess, from an artistic standpoint, they have a reason for the lack of clothing, but, yeah, it just seems so weird playing my kitty Zelda game, and then all of a sudden, I get hippie fairies. I don't know, man. I do prefer the Wind Waker ones, even if they look all crystally and they look so cartoony.
The reason we're doing this so late into the game is you will need certain items to delve deeper at certain points, like the spinner, for example. So I guess the first time you can properly take on the Cave of Ordeals is after the Arbiter's Grounds. Obviously, since you get to the desert and you warp that block back to the Bridge of Eldin, where it belongs, and it reveals the entrance.
And we're gonna have to deal with ice enemies, so you want to save this also for after Snow Peak Ruin. If you just want to get through this in one go, save yourself some headache, just do it right before you go to the final dungeon. Like, we could have put this off even further if we wanted to, and it could have helped out. I mean, we still have another dungeon to go, so that means we have another heart container. But yeah, this works too.
We're not ready to face Zan yet, just a bit more training, I think.
Shoe worms.
I haven't seen these guys since the Lakebed Temple, I believe.
Yep. Would have been cool if maybe we saw them in Snow Peak, only instead of, like, this bubble variety, like, they were just inside a giant ice ball and they kind of tried to run you over, roll towards you.
No, even better, they're kind of like fossilized. Like, they just died inside there.
Oh. So, alright, we know that you're going to at some point have to use the secret sword techniques and whatnot. So which ones would you say are most useful / used more often by you in this Cave of Ordeals?
In the Cave of Ordeals, or do you mean just in general?
Cave of Ordeals.
Let's see, Backslice. Helm Splur comes in useful against the Darknuts. I kind of tired the jump slice thing, you know, the charge up one. That's been really good against chill foes, but I very rarely use it because it's very good for one-on-one, not when there's dozens of spears flying at you.
Yeah, because that's how this dungeon is gonna progress, is that the enemies don't really get harder, They just get more numerous. They do get clever with some of them by adding enemies that, you know, have really good synergy, like, say, an enemy that's really slow with an enemy that can freeze you. Like, shit like that is very smart, and, like, it honestly shows that there's thought not only in the enemies, but in how they work, and how they affect the player. And it's something that, you know, you see with, like, Kamiya games and stuff. So when you see, even if it's on a lower level, to see it in Zelda games, it is refreshing. I enjoy seeing it, and I hope that that thought process, that they use it for Zelda U.
Okay, we've got a Poe soul here. We've got a bunch of Stal hounds. There's 3 Poe souls throughout the Cave of Ordeals, so make sure not to miss them. Well, actually, you can't miss them because the door won't open unless you kill them.
This is another smart room. I mean, you're going to be in wolf form to get the pulse soul, and so at the same time then you can have a wolf on wolf battle with all the stall wolfos, I think.
Style hounds, mate.
Style hounds. It always just seems to be the way Zelda characters and enemies follow a very... It's kind of weird. It's a very scientific naming system. If it's wolf-based, it will have wolfos in its name. Liquid-based, chew in the name. Like how you could make up a fantasy enemy, but so long as you get the details correct, you can probably come up with an accurate name.
I would recommend, after taking out all the enemies and, you know, opening the door, to go into wolf mode, because there'll often be digging spots, and sometimes there'll be health, always useful. Sometimes there'll be money, and this comes in very handy for when you get the magic armor. So I think the devs knew that they'd created something quite difficult. You know, obviously the name's there, but that's just bragging rights, really. Oh, I beat the Cave of Ordeals. Did you use the magic armor? No, not really. So they kind of had to give you a reason to use it.
There's a lot of thought, lots of evidence of thought in the Cave of Ordeals. I mean, for something that I just completely skipped and never even touched, I'm pretty sure that I'm now a bit more disappointed in myself in that, because there's a lot of work in here, and I hate to let good work go to waste, even when it's not even my own.
You may have noticed there was actually a red shoe, like, just bopping about when all these purple ones drop down, so if you have an empty bottle handy, you can get a free red potion.
Just clever little things are all over the place, so you could just devise about... So far, I mean, if I were to have kept count, at least 10 different strategies. Save your money for your magic armor, use the enemy resource like chew jellies. I don't think we've seen it yet, but you can attack and kill certain enemies while still on the platform.
Oh, yeah.
So if you notice that certain enemies, like, I really don't want to deal with those two together, you can try and snipe one out and make it a bit easier. You're still going to have to take them out in some form of order, but... you know, you can help yourself.
That's something I probably should have mentioned from the start, especially for enemies like Redeads and whatnot, who can stun you, and then you'll have other enemies coming in. You definitely want to use the platform to your advantage. Chuck bombs down, use bomb arrows, stuff like that. These fairies just repeat the same dialogue, but with slight changes like Ordon Spring, Lanayru Spring, etc. So I'm just going to be fast forwarding through them from now on.
It is kind of cool that you're, you know, bringing fairy... Is it that you're bringing fairies back to Hyrule, or that you're awakening the fairies, or...
I think it's that with the Great Fairies sealed down here, the fairies just don't exist in Hyrule right now. That's probably why we haven't been able to find any outside of, like, you know, the door to boss arenas and whatnot.
That's true. And also because, I mean, all the fairy fountains, which... I'm not sure if that's what those technically are, but it's a fairy in water fairy fountain. I mean, normally they're all over Hyrule. That's how you'll get money upgrades. That's how you'll get quiver upgrades. But Twilight Princess, that's all done through the mini games and all the side quests. So the Cave of Ordeals doesn't really have much backstory to it, but it almost feels like in order to conquer Hyrule, Zant must have maybe sealed all the fairies away, like cut off as much of Hyrule's own magic so that he could overwhelm them with his Twilight magic. And so it sort of seems like, okay, now we're rescuing them but instead of actually letting them go, they're just awakening other fairies. I don't know, like, they could have done some cool things with Cave of Ordeal. Maybe that would have piqued my interest more, made me actually do it, but
yeah.
As it stands, I mean, it's side quests, so not really my cup of tea.
Are you the type of gamer who needs, like, lore to be able to enjoy bonus content?
Yeah, and it's not to say that if a side quest doesn't have the lore, that it's bad. It's just that, personally, I don't enjoy it as much. I sort of need justification, except, like, when you get to older stuff, just because I can sort of forgive that, just because everything has bare bones lore. The entire game in and of itself is bare bones lore, so to expect it in a side quest. But with Twilight Princess, where plot is front and center, I would expect some more justification for what the fuck the Cave of Ordeals is. I mean, gameplay-wise, I mean, as a video game, the Cave of Ordeals works. The Cave of Ordeals has its form and function, but as the art piece that Twilight Princess is, it seems lacking.
Okay, next up we have 10 Bulbins and 3 Bulbin archers, and the little shit was aiming directly at us when the door opened. That's a little bit of dodgy game design right there, or brilliant, I can't really decide.
Dick move, brah.
No, look up, stupid.
That's my catchphrase. Get your own.
I have many. No moblins in Twilight Princess. Although I say that, there was one in the beta trailer. It had like a skull mask on and a massive hammer, and that's apparently a moblin. I was looking this up earlier.
Huh, that's cool. There's a lot of scrapped enemy designs. I mean, I showed you the Goron Golem, which still is the best thing ever. And then you said there's the moblins, but there's also, there's a scrap Shadow Beast design, which is essentially like a giant muscular man with no head, and instead in the chest is the big mouth. I believe it was shown in one of the trailers, like one of the early trailers, and then it's not there anymore. And I think that would have been cool, because yeah, we got, you know, the Twilight Orphis birds, we got the Twilight Beast Delios. It would have been cool if you know, we would have had the Twilight big muscular enemy. Just more enemy types, because the enemies they got, they're good. I'm just saying that there's not that much variety in them, so it would have been nice to have, even if it's still the stereotypical game enemy tropes, you know, just giving the Twilight its own counterparts to all of them would have helped a lot.
Yeah, for a land that's practically shrouded in Twilight, not many of its inhabitants turn dark and whatnot. They mostly just regress into their, like, Firefly forms.
There's that, and then the, which ones are there? Not the Moblins, not the Bokoblins. Bulblins.
Yeah.
There it is. The Bulblins in Twilight, like, they turn into a Twilight form, which I guess is because they're affiliated with the evil side, so they get a pass on it, which I guess that works. But they do that for a lot of enemies. Like I said, it would have been cool to see actual, this is a creature from the Twilight Realm. It lives there, and the people who live in the Twilight Realm have to deal with this bullshit. Not only would it give you more of an enemy variety, but it also helps with world building. Because as of right now, we know jack shit about the Twilight Realm. Yeah, we know about the Twillies, we know that they're a monarchy of some kind, we know that shit sucks in Twilight Realm, but outside of that, we don't really know much about the realm itself. We don't know what it's like there.
Well, let's see what's next up on the list. Lizalfos, Bokoblins just did that. 4 Fire Bubbles, 2 Stalfos, and 15 Mini Stalfos. And this is the last floor of this set.
Skull Room.
I was hoping to take out 2 at once, though.
You'll have plenty of opportunities, Tom. Plenty.
I'm not sure how I feel about this iteration of the bubble. It just strikes me as a Kisu flew into a skull and got stuck.
That actually would be a cool art design, that instead of the bubble being a skull with wings, it's just like a bat that flew into a skull and is using the skull as armor.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool. I like that. Would have been nice if the fairies also had slightly different designs. Like, I know it was a cheap thing that the Zelda 64s did, but you could have at least given them different hair.
Yeah.
For what region they're from. Like, give the one from Eldin more red hair or something.
Majora's Mask did that a lot. You can see it primarily, like, side by side in the credits.
Oh yeah. They had to do some work on those fairies. I mean, they had to use the exact same assets, but, you know, even if you're using the same model, you can always change their poses.
It's a good job these BMOs have the bright lights, because it gets pretty dark when you're not standing on the ledge up here.
I guess that's why they have the light setting at the beginning of the game. Can you change that? You're allowed to set that every time you open your file, right? Or is that just when you start the game?
Every time you open up your file, I believe.
Because I don't think if they had done that at the beginning, like, oh, create your file, create your light settings, would have been really silly if you had no way to go back and say, wait, no, I didn't know there was an entire nighttime cave. Switch it back.
Okay, gotta use the Dominion Rod now. And obviously we would have had to have got Ilya's memory back by this point.
So see, we're not putting it off too far. We're doing it about right on time.
I originally wasn't gonna do this, the Cave of Ordeals, that is. But I thought, you know what, if we just went from beginning to end, it probably wouldn't have been that interesting a playthrough, because the story's okay. But I wanted to do stuff like the Whitewater Rapids, Roll Goal, obviously, a bit of fishing here and there, and the Cave of Ordeals. Why not?
I actually appreciate that you did this, because for me, the beginning of the game was super slow. The beginning of the game felt it was overwhelming, but it was overwhelming with nothing. Like, there's so much nothing, I can't hold it all. And then as soon as it got to the second half, I would just beeline it to the end, just because I was having so much fun, that I never took the time to stop and see all the stuff that was in the second half, like those caves. I really had no idea just how good they were. I mean, the fact that it's essentially what this game's current gen was, a current gen idea of the very old classic Zelda dungeons. I didn't know about that, so I'm really glad that I was able to see that with this playthrough. And the Cave of Ordeals, I mean, this is at least giving us time to soak in all the shit that we've done. I mean, we're not having playthrough whiplash here.
Bit of a mistake on my part to jump down without taking out the Redeads. I assumed because I was in wolf form, I wouldn't be as susceptible to the Redead Knight's roar, but nope, didn't give me enough time to rip out the posehole, so more for me.
You do know that canines' ears are more sensitive than humans, right?
I remember that now, yes.
Although I don't think the anatomy lesson applies when you realize that the Hylians got them pointy ears.
Yep, so they can hear the goddesses better. I find it kind of funny that they give us a map, a mini-map for each room.
It's a circle!
It's the same room each time. Actually, I think it's, what, a hexagon?
Okay, sure, why not?
How many sides does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now that's an octagon. 8 fantastic sides.
Yes, do I make the Jack Black joke, or do you?
I should probably check to make sure what room or floor we're on. Let's see. Oh no, I've lost track. Redead Knight times 4, Pulso 1, that was the last one. Okay, we're on floor 34 right now, next one is 35. It
would have been cool if with some of the chews that they had essentially properties of what they do when they're an item. Like, if you were to shoot a bomb arrow at a yellow chew, it would just, burn.
Yeah.
Because it's made of oil, so that would have been silly.
Although, would that make the the golden one might have super restorative powers. Like, it has double defense, basically.
That would have been cool. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Do it!
And then it can douse itself on enemies. Now, one of these guys on their own, not too big of a hassle. Wait until they start throwing two into the mix, alongside chill foes.
And the room doesn't lend itself to all that much evading from his attack. Like, I think his ice breath might reach all the way to the wall.
It has a very long range, I don't know that much.
I know we mentioned it, but once graphics get better, things like gases and gas-based attacks are a bit harder to dodge just because you're not quite entirely sure where the hitbox ends.
Alright, next floor. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, speak of the devil, 4 chill foes.
You're gonna snipe him, right?
Oh yeah, I'd recommend using bomb arrows from up on the ledge.
Oh, it would have been amazing if the ball and chain could reach that far. Then I'm pretty sure it would be a perfect item then. Give it long range capabilities with that power? Fuck yes.
Don't just spam willy-nilly, wait for them to fall over.
Yeah, it's not super stringent, but you need to have some form of item management. And, you know, gotta make sure you have enough for later. Don't just waste them all right away, or otherwise you're gonna be screwed in the later floors. But really, the only items you need, none of them are really, like, quantity-based.
It's a marathon, not a sprint after all. You gotta conserve what you got. Arrows especially. I find arrows, not bombs, are the most useful tool in the Cave of Ordeals.
But at the end of the day, we can all agree that we're not seeing the boomerang getting any use around here.
No.
Or that slingshot. I keep forgetting we have a slingshot.
Why can't we sell the fucking thing? Give it to Malomar as like an antique for them to display.
That's what I was saying. It would have been a sweet little, not even a side quest, just an Easter egg that you could give them the slingshot that they once admire you for having. Just, here you go, it's yours. Keep it.
Okay, that's that floor down. I was too busy looking at the guide and didn't see what we were fighting, but up next I believe is 3 ice bubbles, 3 ice keys, 4 chill foes, and 2 freezars. This is one of the harder rooms in the cave.
They could have expanded it too. It could have been like, give him the slingshot, and then through his entrepreneurial ingenuity, he could have like created the super slingshot or whatever that you buy from his store later on or some shit.
I like the little touch of the fossils on the floor.
Would have been cool if they either got more numerous or those changed, you know, to go back to the Savage Labyrinth, how every so often you got a color change. That with this, you know, the textures of the walls, at least, because I'm not looking to randomly show up in an underground palace. Like, why is this even here? Why was this in the middle of the desert?
Yeah, why is Zan imprisoning these fairies in such lush environments?
Exactly. Although, that's now based off my, theory fanfic explanation. We're not entirely sure. This could be their natural living accommodations.
Stun it as quick as you can and go in for the second blow. Don't mind me, just chilling out.
Yeah, no.
We have many floors to go, just laugh and move on. I said laugh, not cry. Alright, floor 39. This is a taste of what's to come, because we're about to face 2 Dark Nuts. I would recommend trying to get one to come over without activating the other, otherwise you're in for a world of hurt, especially if you don't have many hearts.
Lovely. Gotta use the macros. So, hey, buddy! I
don't know what it is though. When I'm doing my back slices and helm splitters, I always end up activating the other guy over there. Maybe he just gets interested in what I'm doing.
It's all the noise you're making!
I should have really tried doing the whole stab thing when he goes to attack me and take off his armor that way.
That's pretty much the quickest way to get it done, although, yeah, you leave yourself open for counterattacks. It's a technique that, if you get it, it's really effective, it's really quick, but if you mess it up, you have to suffer greater consequences. So it's a risk-reward dealio, which is weird considering that it's based off of your basic attack.
I kind of panic and derp out during these kind of fights, so expect to see me bust out the magic armor.
Oh man. Doesn't its color change or something? Like, it's not always red.
No, when it runs out of rupees, it becomes all, like, pale and rusty.
Oh, okay.
It essentially becomes a full bodysuit that weighs you down, kind of like a bodysuit version of the Iron Boots.
You should put the boots on, and then pull off the ball and chain, and then just watch Link's spine snap in two from the weight.
And now you know why it was giving us all those rupees.
Yeah. Oh, Darknuts, you never change. Annoying as fucking Zelda 1, and will continue to be annoying as fuck forevermore.
I don't know why I kept going with the spin attack. Maybe I was just trying to catch them both at the same time, but not as strong as a jump attack, really.
This is one of those enemies where if you do get a bit panicky, that's gonna hurt you badly.
Oh yeah.
You have to keep your cool for these kind of... Which, so weird that I'm talking about your mental levels in terms of fighting a Twilight Princess enemy, but the Darknuts, you know, they're competent. They're a good enemy.
Doesn't take much to knock an armorless Darknut off its balance, really.
Suck it.
Treasure, eh? Ooh.
Ah, snap.
A silver rupee. Is that our first in Twilight Princess?
That I can recall. At least the first one I've paid attention to.
Uh-huh.
No, Link, don't touch the silver rupee. It'll kill you.
I understand that reference.
Good, because I'm actually allergic to pure silver.
Really?
Yeah, I found out during one of my chemistry labs we had to extract pure silver from silver chloride, and the lab technicians were like, you should wear gloves because silver can stain your hands and clothes. And I was like, whatever, I don't care, I just want to get this lab done. I get silver powder on my hands, and my hands start to swell up, and my throat starts closing on me.
Damn.
And so that's when I discovered I'm allergic to pure silver in the middle of a chemistry lab.
Didn't realize I was doing commentary with a werewolf over it.
It's the joke everyone has to fucking make. It's not fucking funny when your throat closes up, though.
No, it's not. I apologise, mate.
It's alright.
I would definitely recommend attacking these guys from the ledge, because the first take I did of this, and frankly I only had to do 2 takes, so that's 2 lots of 15-minute sessions. Didn't go so well. In fact, it became kind of an Armos Link smorgasbord.
Arm host OJ, spring break!
Look at him dance. Kaboom.
Sploosh. Ball and chain. Ball and chain.
Oh, so he gets him on the way back. Why didn't I think of that?
Well then, also, their hitbox is a little weird that when you're doing the spin around wind-up thing, you can kind of get their backside there too. Like, the ball and chain is so fucking good. Like, it could have killed pretty much every enemy that was in the Temple of Time easily. You just run. If you could run with the ball and chain, the Temple of Time would have just been running while spinning a ball all over the place like some psychomaniac.
Now we'll need the dual claw shots to actually get out of this room, so this is why it's a good idea to take it on after City in the Sky at the very least.
Yeah, because why would you want to be stupid enough to go a little bit far, backtrack, go a little bit further, backtrack? I mean, I guess that's how friggin' rogue games work or something, but fuck no, I ain't playing that shit.
You can get out of this room if you happen to make the mistake of coming in here without the correct item. I think there's a claw shot target just above the ledge we jumped down from, and in each fairy fountain place there's a warp out.
The target of shame.
Alright, moving on. That room consisted of 9 almost knights. Seemed like more, really. Next room's kind of a joke. It's 6 bokoblins and 6 barber serpents.
Ha. Huh. Well, there's always got to be that one room that's like, shouldn't this have been like 20 stories sooner? But whatever. A breather's a breather. You take it and run with it.
Mole draw. Very good against these guys.
Except you were using it against such a weak enemy that you probably could just use your basic slash, but, you know, hey, showed it off. There you go, now no one can complain.
Well, these guys won't exactly die in one attack. You'll have to use the finishing blow on them. And since there's barber serpents going about, that might actually stop you from finishing them. True,
because it looks like they're trying to stay close to them. Like, I'm not entirely sure on the AI of the bokoblins, but it really did seem like they could have just rushed you, but they're trying to stay within the ring of the Baba serpents. I also noticed that they have real swords this time. Before they were just attacking us with bones.
Everything had to become more extreme for the Cave of Ordeals, mate.
Everything more extreme for Twilight Princess!
There we go, room done.
Like how you can just send it flying with that stab attack. Sweet.
Okay, next up we have 5 Lizalfos and 8 Bulblin archers. You gotta love projectile enemies in I can't say enclosed spaces for some reason. It's just a really hard word to say for me.
Just pretend that you're talking about enclosed spaces instead of actually using it in the sentence, because that worked out pretty well for you there.
Just take out all the archers you can. I think some of them are actually hiding underneath the ledge, which is a bit of a dick move.
Friggin' Bulblin guys getting to use fire arrows. Why can't I use fire arrows? I'd like to use fire arrows.
Just be glad that they don't have bomb arrows, mate.
Yeah, that is true. It launches you so far you just clip out of bounds. Like, oh, Twilight Princess, you so silly.
Not too bad, but kind of running low on hearts right now.
That's what money is for. Oh, Midna. It's gonna be such fun playing you in 2 forms?
Oh, in Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah. It's like, want a new character? Well, how's about Midna again? But we're getting her in Twilly form, so that counts. It's different.
How does she play?
I haven't seen actual gameplay, but she uses the Twilight Mirror as her weapon.
That's pretty neat.
A friend of mine showed me the picture. He hasn't actually played Twilight Princess, so when he was trying to describe it, it's like, oh, they're bringing endgame Midna back, and she uses a sundial. It's like, what? It's like, yeah, a sundial. Show me this picture right now. It's like, that's the Mirror of Twilight, you idiot.
Yeah. Wow, Orange Link. Well, that was nice to have for a couple of seconds.
Does Link have an orange coloration? Yeah, he does have one in Smash, doesn't he?
I think so. He has many forms in Smash.
All I ever use is regular, light blue white tunic and Fierce Duty Link.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
This room is so obnoxious when you first get in here, because you try to take out the Poe sticks close to the armoured things, who I will just look up the correct name of, Dynarphos, there we go, and I would just recommend leading the Dynarphos away as much as you can, and then after they're dead, going in for the Poe soul.
We're getting a lot of Zelda related shit, not so much like games, but I mean, we got Link and the Hyrule Bike in Mario Kart. We got Hyrule Warriors. We got lots of Hyrule Warrior DLC. I mean, you got Link in Smash. I mean, I don't want to say that there's more Zelda-related stuff now than ever before, but it almost seems like... Oh, and then, of course, Majora's Mask 3D. Sorry, you can't forget that, but... Do you think we might be reaching a point of Zelda oversaturation?
I think Wesker will have to come in and confirm that if we get any more stuff.
At least we're not going back to the good old days of Nintendo where it's like, hey, here's a multiplayer Zelda game. Oh, wait, everyone's going to need to have a handheld console and a connecting cable for the handheld console and 4 copies of the handheld game and the home console in order to play our super fun multiplayer game.
Was the multiplayer aspect of, like, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks wireless, or did it... Well, obviously it was wireless, but did it have proper Wi-Fi capabilities? Like, could you play it online with other people?
I don't know. Like, for 2 seconds there when you were talking about multiplayer on Spirit Tracks, I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But yeah, I forgot Spirit Tracks did have multiplayer, and I have no fucking idea. I have no idea how it worked, because, I don't think I had friends when I had a DS.
Aww.
It took until a 3DS for me to have companionship, yeah.
I'm looking up multiplayer stuff here. I'm not really seeing anything. Oh well, not important. Okay, next up we have... Let me just look at the screen.
Ice.
Okay, another ice room. We've got Chillfos. Okay, 3 Chillfos, 2 Freezars, 10 Ghoul Rats. That's why it's best to take as much out as you can from the ledge before you jump down.
Sadly, no ice spiders.
Ugh.
And down you go. See, this is what I'm talking about with putting enemies together that work well. The Chillfos Ice Breath is... You know, it's tricky, but it's easily dodgeable. You just keep running. But they threw in Ghoul Rats, whose their sole purpose is just to slow you down. So while each individual enemy didn't get, like, you know, a buff or get new attacks, they put enemies together that have good synergy to completely dick you over. You know, it's like a business boardroom meeting. It's like, we need to work on our teamwork here. We need to synergize our energies in order to take that Link fellow down. You got this Freezar in a business suit. Just makes it all the better. Yeah, the whole mobility thing doesn't really work out when you remember that the ball and chain has mid-range capabilities, so may need to work on another meeting there.
This next room's kind of a joke, really. It's basically kind of a cooldown period for what's coming. This room, floor 47, incidentally, 1 Bokoblin, 5 mini Starpos, and 10 rats.
So this is the Hyrule Warrior Precursor room. Just a bunch of little enemies that you can mow down like it's no big deal.
Oh boy. Prepare yourself, this is where things get really dickish. You ready for this?
Things about to get nasty.
1 Dark Nut and 2 Erelfos.
Yeah, no. What?
And considering we have 8 minutes left for these 3 chambers, you can probably guess how well I did.
Well, especially with the Erelfos, they're an enemy of timing. And an enemy of waiting, too, since the only time you can bring them down to the ground level is when they stick their shields up, which is whenever the hell they want to, or if you can get enough free space to throw out your boomerang. Which, I'll tell you this, the boomerang is not the fastest of all weapons. I mean, pulling it out and throwing it actually takes Link some time. I don't know the actual frame data here, but I'm gonna say it's about mid-high priority.
The main problem with this room is... there's like a set camera angle for each room in the Cave of Ordeals, and it's just not zoomed out enough to know where the Erelfos are when they've gone off camera.
We haven't talked about the camera a lot in Twilight Princess, have we?
No, so why don't we do it now and fill up some time?
It's been pretty good for most of the game. Like, I didn't even think of it as a concern, because remember, this is originally GameCube, but also Wii game. Both consoles lacking in a fixed second thumbnail. Yeah, you have the C-stick thumbnail, but even then, when they set any sort of camera control for that in a Zelda game, it's usually just for like a snap turn. Like you turn it to, if you flick it to the right, yeah, the camera looks left or whatever, but as soon as it's back in its neutral position, the camera just snaps back to directly behind Link. Of course, that just means Nintendo, it's on them now. It's like, you made your hardware, now you gotta kind of make your game around it. And that's always difficult. Sometimes it's not fair, but it seems like they put enough thought process into it that it doesn't become a problem until you get to enclosed, low ceiling, or enemies that just want to crowd around you spaces. So it's very specific situations that camera becomes an issue. Unfortunately, when it becomes an issue, it becomes a glaring, blinding issue.
Alright, that room was kind of tricky. Next up is the final challenge floor of the Cave of Ordeals. The third chamber, kind of made a mistake here, is the fifth Great Fairies room. Here's our final challenge. 3 dark notes. You can't see one because it's hidden under the ledge.
Oh, lovely. Also, 3 dark nuts, whatever. I took out like 6 in the 4th dungeon in Zelda 1. Get good, son. Plus, these dark nuts, they don't just wander all over the place with no indication of when they're gonna turn. Most likely directly into you.
This is probably going to take a while, so you got any witty anecdotes or stories you want to divulge?
Not a story real quick, but I do want to draw a comparison. In Wind Waker, when you get all the dungeons complete and right before you enter like the Ganon trials, there's a scene where you gotta fight 2 dark nuts, and they throw in like 2-3 dark nuts at you a couple times in a lot of the late games, in the Savage Labyrinth and some of the like chamber places where you get Triforce maps. Fighting multiple dark nuts in that game isn't really all that difficult, just because for the most part you just hope to get the back slice, and then they're close enough that you just slice off both of their breastplates and then you just poke them to death. So if anything, dark nuts in Twilight Princess are significantly more difficult, and not even because of, oh, they're more difficult because the controls are bad. They're legitimately more difficult. I'm not entirely sure about their speed though. I think these are also just all around slower, but the fact that even if you manage to get a back slice off, it's not, these enemies are not just a do the right move, win fight. They're a difficult enemy through and through. There's no way that you can like 100% guarantee you're gonna quickly kill these guys. I mean, even the fast multi-poke way has its drawbacks.
Just focus on taking out their armor one at a time. I would not recommend trying to fight all 3 of these guys at once, but what can you do?
It's really hard. It's the opposite of Wind Waker. In that game, you wanted them close together, like I said, because then you can knock the armor off multiple. This game, nope. Nope, you gotta want to take them out individually, which is always a nice thing with Zelda games, is that even if enemies are the same, they can have different battle techniques varying from game to game. I mean, yeah, Keys are always going to be that enemy that will go down in one hit. Babas will always be more effective with slice attacks, but, you know, with the Dark Nuts, they're reserved as a late game difficult enemy, so you can change them up and have them fit the specific game that they're in more appropriately.
I gotta be honest, yeah, I'm kind of doping him, mostly because I had the magic armor as insurance, but it's also, as well as just being genuinely challenging, it's an endurance test. Like, my arm was hurting by this point.
One benefit of the GameCube: 0 physical requirement. I mean, unless you have very sensitive lady thumbs, then no.
And there we go, that is the Cave of Ordeals done and dusted. Goodbye, Magic Armor, we shall ne'er see you again.
Congratulations, you explored a cave in a Zelda game. Don't you feel proud of yourself?
Why must you diminish my triumph?
I'm sorry, no, the Cave of Ordeal is rightfully named, and the fact you got through it, and you got through it without me being too bored. That's the real achievement here, is that I'm not bored to death. Congratulations.
Well, you sound constantly bored, so I'm never really sure when you're excited. That's rich coming from me, I know.
I'm always happy. I'm ecstatic.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to get an item again. It's not even an extra bottle. They just filled up one of your bottles with great fairy tears.
No. Bad touch. Go away. No.
Well, it's not a substitute for actual skill, so you will still need to swing the Wii remote every now and then.
Can I, like, throw my boomerang in your water or something so that I can make it better? Can we do that?
And on that crazy Zelda Lane innuendo, we'll see you next time, where it's finally time to begin the endgame of Twilight Princess. See you then.